Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferris 64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. This is the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, reviews, and so much more. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. The day that I'm recording this is Mother's Day, so to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. I hope you all have a great day if you're spending the day with your family or whatever. I hope you had a good time. But if you're not, hey, here's an episode of the podcast for you to spend your time listening to, huh? So last week we had a bit of a kerfuffle because I talked about the Helldivers 2 stuff, and I put out the podcast on the day that I actually a day after that I normally do, which was Monday. And I don't usually do that. Usually it's Sunday, like a shadow drop on Sunday, and then I promote it on Monday. And of course, Sony had to unknowingly kind of make everything that I said in that episode invalid. I mean, it's still worth listening to, obviously. Not just the Helldivers 2 stuff essentially was invalidated. So we're going to start off this episode with the news. So let's just jump right into what's in the news. Alright, so the first thing to talk about, I already hinted at before. PlayStation, aka Sony, decided to roll back the idea of forcing players to use a PSN account to play Helldivers 2. So in a Twitter post, they said, Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on the Helldivers 2 account linking update, the May 6 update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account linking for new players and for current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. We are still learning what's best for PC players, and your feedback has been invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on our future plans. Now, when I recorded the episode last week, I said there was like 60,000 some negative reviews. The number ballooned to 100,000 by the end of the weekend, so probably around like late Sunday. Now the reviews have swayed back into the positive area of it all. People have decided to, reverse their negative review. But there are still some people who are holding on to it because there are still 170 countries that will not be able to access Helldivers 2 still. So essentially, there are a couple of areas in the world, actually probably not a couple, but there are a good amount of countries in the world that have access to Steam but don't have access to the PSN, to PlayStation Network. And PlayStation had already delisted the game in those regions, and they were, I guess, allowing refunds on the game as well. And they have decided not to relist the shooter, the co-op shooter, in those 170 countries and or territories where PSN is not available, which really does suck for those people. They've been able to play the game for 2 months now, maybe even 3, right? And all of a sudden, because of this decision that they were going to add PSN the PSN account login, the game was shut down, not shut down, but delisted from the Steam storefront, and those players won't be able to connect to the game still after all this has been settled. In the Helldivers 2 Discord, the official Helldivers 2 guy said, speaking to our partners at PlayStation and Valve and pushing for the delisting to be undone. The game will be available everywhere that PSN is available, but they want to bring it to the other countries again, bring it back to the other countries again. So this is another thing where the developers behind Helldivers 2, Arrowhead Studios, they are trying to make a push for the player base. I don't know if Sony's going to nudge on this one, but we'll see. Maybe by the time that this episode comes out, the PlayStation will have reactivated the Steam, the Steam version in those 170 countries. Now, there was a list of those countries the other day. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it's at. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I mean, there's 170, so I don't want to go through them all, but some of the more prominent ones, I guess. You got Antarctica. What? You can't access the game in Antarctica? What the fuck, man? Yeah, Antarctica. Most of these I don't really recognize. The Cook Islands, Congo, Cuba, Dominican Republic. Wow. Egypt. Ethiopia, Fiji, the Falkland Islands, Georgia, French New Guinea, Ecuador, Guam, Haiti, Iraq, Iran, Jamaica. Wow. Libya, Morocco, Monaco, Maui, Puerto Rico. Yeah, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot here, so I'm not gonna go through them all, but just some to wet your palate there. If you want to check out the whole list, you can check it out on oh, I closed the page. Well, you can check it out by searching it. And then finally for the Helldivers 2 debacle, and then finally for the main news, and I'll talk about the whole situation. The community manager or whoever is behind like the Twitter account and some stuff on Discord was fired by Arrowhead Studios pretty much the same day that this all kind of, Sony came out and was like, hey, yeah, we're not gonna do the PSN swap. He was essentially fired more or less for pushing the community to change their reviews to negative and let their thoughts be known. And the reason that he said to do these things was because Sony doesn't, they're not concerned about what's going on in the Arrowhead Discord or the Helldivers 2 Discord. They are concerned about the front-facing Steam reviews and the Steam side of things in that aspect, in that area. So when all those reviews came in negative, Arrowhead was able to push Sony and say, hey, look, the players, they aren't liking this. They're asking for refunds. They're changing their reviews to negative. The sales are going to plummet for the game. The player base is going to plummet for the game, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when Sony decided to switch things around. Unfortunately, the person who started that call to action was let go from the company. In a Discord post and then later published to Twitter, they said, make their displeasure unknown through reviews, refunds, etc. It'll give us more pool in the discussion with Sony. They don't read our Discord. This person's name was Spitz. So the Helldivers 2 community has once again rallied around trying to get this person rehired. They made a change.org petition with over almost 5,000 signatures on it so far. Essentially, the change.org petition just asked them to consider the dismissal of the community manager, but I don't think that's going to happen. According to the petition, on May 7th, around 11:45 Pacific time, the Helldivers Discord discovered that community manager Spitz had been relieved of his position and all traces of his previously held post deleted or otherwise removed from the Discord. Which is kind of weird that they kind of scrubbed him or them from the Discord entirely. Kind of crazy. I understand, this person definitely made an impact on the community. I believe they were there from day one, interacting with them and whatnot, gauging feedback and stuff like that. I don't personally think that they should have been fired for this. I mean, essentially all they did was say, hey, you don't like this change, let it be known by, changing, giving reviews and asking for refunds, right? I don't think that's an offense to get them fired, really. I mean, maybe it's because they were so ingrained in the community that maybe PlayStation or Arrowhead felt like, at this point they're not really a worker at Arrowhead, they're a worker for the community. And once again, I mean, they are a community manager, so I mean those should go hand in hand, but it could possibly be that they saw it as they're too ingrained in the community, they're too community focused. I don't know, which sounds pretty weird to me if that is the reason, because like if you're in the role of a community manager, isn't it your job to kind of be in that community and echo what they're saying to the higher ups? I don't know. It's weird. But it's also kind of crazy how the PlayStation community has reacted, because no one from the PlayStation community really cares, because if they're just playing the game on PlayStation, they never would have known a difference would have happened. So a lot of people who comment on these things who are just a part of like the PlayStation community don't really understand why this is such a big deal, why the whole PSN being added, being a mandatory thing was a big deal. And essentially they just, say like, oh, these people are crazy, these people are unhinged, whatever. So it's actually kind of weird being divided on this one, because I do play PlayStation games, but I also game with Helldivers 2 on the PC. And even though this change wouldn't have affected me that much because I already have a PSN account that I use, being a part of both of those communities it's an interesting perspective to see how both of those communities are reacting to this. One side saying, "Oh, there's a lot of crazy people in the Helldivers community, and I've stopped playing the game because of the community." It's like, okay, whatever. And on the other side of things, you have maybe some malice in there, obviously, but there's a lot of people who are, they're just trying to get the game back to the way that it was. And if one of those things is to try and get this community manager back on, they're going to try and do that. And there's still a lot of areas that don't have PSN that aren't going to be able to play the game. So even without the requirement to log into the PSN servers, Sony is not allowing them to play the game or buy the game anymore. So it's just one of those things. It's like it's a very strange situation, and we'll see what happens in the future. Like I said before, maybe this will all be solved by the time that this podcast comes out. I don't want to get my hopes up, but you never know what could happen. I mean, just last week, I talked for 30 minutes about Helldivers 2, and in one tweet, Sony solved most of the problem. So it's one of those things. So as of right now, it's a wait and see moment for the entire gaming landscape. We'll see what happens. But as of this point, the reviews are going back to being positive for Helldivers 2, and people are getting back on the game and playing. And they just launched a new one of those new content packs that has some new guns and stuff in it. And originally they were thinking of delaying that because of all the controversy, but the community voted and said, no, we want it now. We're going to get back and play the game, and boom, bada bing, there you go. So, and I do understand Sony trying to learn what's best for PC players, but it doesn't seem like they've learned that much, since Ghost of Tsushima, the multiplayer mode, is going to, from the get-go, require a PSN login. But it seems like single-player games content and single-player games are not going to be affected by this. So, the rumored God of War Ragnarok coming to PC, or probably whenever The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 come to PC, those will probably, most likely, not require a PSN login. But if there is a multiplayer mode attached to, well, I guess there isn't a multiplayer mode attached to any of those, but let's say that there is a multiplayer mode on one of the games coming out to the PC from PlayStation, then you'll have to use a PSN account to play the game. But and that'll probably be a thing going forward. I think Sony learned being straightforward with stuff and not releasing a game without something that they're planning on implementing, especially on the PC version, is a no-no. All right, talking about oopsies in the gaming landscape. Microsoft has, I think they officially lost any goodwill that that players had towards the higher ups there, because they recently closed Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin, and Roundhouse Studios. Is that it? No, Alpha Dog Games. I apologize. Alpha Dog Games. So these are all studios that they got with the Bethesda buyout. When they bought Bethesda Studios, they got all these different game studios. Or maybe they bought ZeniMax, which had all these studios under them, which had the Bethesda studios under them. And obviously that was a while ago. They've been working on games, getting games out there. And right now, it seems to be a lot of cost saving measures going around the gaming landscape, and Xbox is, of course, added to that pile of companies that are closing studios just to save some money. And at this point, I mean, it shouldn't be that surprising that they closed down like two studios that would have made them money in the future, but Xbox hasn't always been known for their best ideas. I mean, just look at the Xbox One era and the lead up to that launch, and Xbox has never really recovered since then. They've always been struggling in the console market since the 360 era, and then they went to the Xbox One. They had all these. They talked about all these like anti-consumer things, and the Xbox One was more for like TV. It was like an all-in-one box, and like the PlayStation crushed them right out of the gate. And they never. I mean, Xbox, even though they've released a new console and they bought all these studios, they've never really been able to recover. And people have been, of course, hopeful, me myself included. I've been hopeful that Xbox can get it together and start making games that are, worth your time. And they finally release a game or two that's like, okay, that's something that you can look forward to. That's something that you can play and have a good time with. One of those games being Hi-Fi Rush. And then they decided to just close the studio and and then move on. And I don't want to toot my own horn or anything like that, but back before the Xbox buying Activision Blizzard, I said on the podcast, do not let this go through. Xbox is going to fumble this. I said it so many times late in the later half of that whole process where Xbox was trying to buy Activision Blizzard. I especially poured it on when the Xbox head was like, oh, we're losing in the market, blah 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 blah, and then he was like crying to the the people in the law who were supposed to let it go through, right? And I poured it on. I'm like, don't let this company take over Activision Blizzard. They already have they already have yeah, and nowadays it's like they already had all these other studios, all these good, hardworking studios under their wings, and they couldn't really do anything with them, as of this moment. Like Starfield, it's fine. Like I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think that it's a justified review of the game, but it's not really like a big hit, right? It's not like a big like, oh wow, that's a must play on Xbox. Halo Infinite came out 4 years ago now. And even though I, at the time, had high praises, I went back and replayed some of it. I tried to get back into the multiplayer. I just couldn't. And, I don't know if that's just a me thing or what, but it's just one of those games that, like, I didn't really want to get back into. I didn't really want to do anything with. And I don't think it was a big commercial success, and whatever. And then, of course, the whole Redfall thing came around where Xbox, it came out in an article that Xbox was pushing them to make Redfall, and they didn't want to make Redfall, and they knew the game was going to suck when it came out, and they were just trying to, do their best, and Xbox was pushing to get it out. And I was hoping that Xbox was going to clamp down on Bethesda and be like, hey, if a game's not ready, we're not shipping it. Unlike before, when like a game like Fallout 4 would come out and be plagued with bugs, or Skyrim was plagued with bugs when that came out, and there's a whole bunch of different things you can point to and be like, oh, Bethesda just needed to take more time, do more testing, blah 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 blah. I was hoping that Xbox and Microsoft would be like, okay, let's fix this stuff before the game comes out. But no, instead they were the aggressors. They were forcing the studios to push these games out before they were ready. And Starfield is not an exception. They also pushed Starfield to come out. So I think that Xbox right now is in a money first mode, much like a lot of studios around the world, and they are now starting to shave off some of these developers who maybe have made good things in the past and maybe have even made them a hit in the present, but they need to save that money now, because a lot of people are speculating that Xbox Game Pass is sucking a lot of that well dry. Xbox Game Pass is kind of plateaued in terms of how many subscribers does it have at this time, how many people are paying for the service at this time, and I mean, out of I don't think they're adding too many new subscriptions to that service. A report came out as well that like PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Online, and Xbox, all these services are kind of plateauing because the people who were interested in those services have bought those services, and unless something major happens, more people are probably not going to be inclined to get on those services after that. So a lot of people are saying like, okay, so Xbox is trying to recoup some of these losses from Xbox Game Pass because they've stayed steady in their promise that every first party Xbox game is going to come to Game Pass, and they've stayed steady in that promise. As much as it's going to hurt them in the long run, they have stayed true to that promise. And there's been speculation that they're planning on not letting the next Call of Duty be Xbox Game Pass, launch. Because that's a $1 billion franchise. You would think that they want to make the most money that they can, but if they release to one console market or to the PC market on Xbox Game Pass, they're going to be losing a ton of money just from people just playing the game on Xbox Game Pass. At least with the indie developer who puts their game on Xbox Game Pass, that indie developer is getting paid by Microsoft. They're saying, hey, we will give you X amount of money to allow the game to be on Xbox Game Pass for X amount of time. And a lot of times, even though the sales numbers for the indie games don't really get too impacted, but it is a bit of an impact there. But they make up that loss with the money from Xbox. For Xbox's case, I mean, how you're going to give money to yourself? Like, oh, here's the money for putting the game on Xbox Game Pass. No, they lose all that money. They lose all that revenue, especially if the game is an Xbox exclusive, which there really hasn't been an Xbox exclusive since the launch of the Xbox Series S. Even dating back to the Xbox One, every single game that was exclusive there is pretty much available on Steam and other locations now. So it's like, maybe it's time for Xbox to change their model. Maybe it's time for Xbox to realize that they do need the extra profits. And I know the player base is not going to be too happy because, like, oh, we bought Xbox Game Pass to get the new games. Why aren't we getting these new games? Well, it's because they need to make money. I think that I think it's a pretty common knowledge that any development studio, any entity needs to make money to keep their business afloat. And I think Xbox is kind of losing money at this point because of Xbox Game Pass and these live service elements in their business model. So let's go back and talk about these studios that have been shut down, and they actually it's been revealed that more studios will be shut down in the future. They've already sent out buyouts to people for additional development studios in ZeniMax, and apparently the Activision purchase by Xbox ramped up the scrutiny of their developers. So they looked at who was making the money now and decided to axe the parts of the studio that were not making said money. So Arcane Austin, they famously were behind Redfall, but they are also known for Prey, and they helped on the Dishonored games as well. They were shut down. This is a big time flub because Prey, which is a remake of an older game, was really, really good. I mean, it still holds up to this day, really. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, if they could have just made another Prey type game, which they actually were planning on, they were pitching ideas for a open world immersive sim game, kind of like the Dishonored series. So there you go. So Arcane Austin shut down. Tango Gameworks, who was founded by Shinji Mikami, who left the studio last year. They made the Evil Within series, and they were also made most recently not most recently, but they made Ghostwire Tokyo, which was originally going to be a PlayStation exclusive, but now it's on all platforms. And they most recently made Hi-Fi Rush, which was a big departure from their other games, being more, scary, spooky, experiences, right? Hi-Fi Rush was a big success, though, in a lot of ways. And even though I didn't put it on my top 10 list, probably wouldn't have even graced the top 20 for me personally. I didn't like the platforming, and I thought the game dragged on a little bit. But I thought it was really fun, and I thought it had a good, nice combat system and stuff like that. But yeah, they decided to axe that entire studio. So there was going to be a Switch, or there was rumored to be a Switch version of this game in the works and stuff like that, and that's obviously not going to happen. Any more updates to Redfall are not going to happen, of course, because Arcane Austin is shut down. There's not going to be a PS5 version of that, or even like any more updates coming to the game because the studio is completely locked down. Alpha Dog Games, the mobile game developer, they most recently made Mighty Doom, which I remember being kind of a flop. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense for them to close down. I don't know what else they worked on personally. But yeah, I mean, there's at least two studios here, Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, that have a long list of games that they worked on, and Arcane Austin hadn't had a bad release with Redfall, and it's still not a great game. But I mean, to just not have the faith in them to make another good game is bizarre, especially because of all the stuff that happened in the background of the development of Redfall. You could have just put the studio working on that Blade game. That Blade game is probably going to make you a ton of money, but no, they closed all of Arcane Austin. There are other studios in the Arcane realm that are still alive and working, but Arcane Austin was one of those bigger ones that kind of had their hand or their toe in everything that Arcane was working on. And then Tango Gameworks, it's just crazy. I mean, the Evil Within series has always done numbers. Even though Ghostwire Tokyo wasn't the best received game ever, it still did work. There was a lot of people playing that game. And now that Hi-Fi Rush is out, especially now that it's being put on more consoles, I think it had a pretty nice PlayStation run there when it released on PlayStation, and I'm sure if it did release on Switch, it would have also had a pretty good run there too. But we'll never know. We'll never know. But yeah, just to outright shut them down when they have these other series that are very popular, and then Hi-Fi Rush was really really popular, and they were already trying to get a sequel and into production as well. It's unfortunate, it's sad, and it's really just doesn't make any sense. Now, a lot of people are blaming Phil Spencer, but I think more of the blame. I mean, even though maybe he is to blame. I don't know. He hasn't said anything. I'm pretty sure the CEO of Xbox would be mostly to point the fingers at. I think his name is like Matt Booty or something like that. I'm not. I don't remember exactly what his name is. But I would point my fingers there because Phil Spencer really is just like I don't know. I feel like he's just an ideas guy or whatever for the most part. He doesn't really seem to. Well, I don't know if I don't want to say that, but he hasn't said Phil Spencer hasn't said anything. He didn't do a podcast episode like he did before. He hasn't come out and made a statement. He's just been hiding in the background, not saying anything. I don't know if he feels guilty about the whole thing. I don't know if he feels sad about the whole who knows how he's feeling right now. Maybe he's just on vacation. I don't know. But it would be nice to hear from him since he is like the face of Xbox. But right now he's hiding his face, and maybe by the time this podcast comes out, maybe a little bit after, he'll come out with some statements, or maybe they'll just brush past this and not think about it ever again. It's hard to say. And as of this point, we don't know how many people were actually affected by the closure of these studios. We don't have exact numbers. I'm sure it's somewhere in the range of 500 people, maybe more, 600. I don't know. How many people are in Arcane Austin? How many people are at Tango Gameworks? How many people in this mobile game studio? I feel like 500 is a fair number to guess. Just add that onto the pile, I guess. And all of this happened a little bit after the Xbox Game Studio CEO, Matt Booty. He spoke internally to their developers and said that they need smaller projects and smaller titles to give the company prestige and awards. Hi-Fi Rush is literally the game that he's describing there. It's a smaller game that was made on a smaller budget, but it made a good amount of prizes and prestige. The only thing is, it probably didn't make too much money because it was an Xbox Game Pass shadow launch, right? And I'm almost wondering if they had done a whole marketing campaign for the game and they had released it for $30, $40, new on Xbox and PC, they probably would have recouped the production costs and everything like that. So once again, it's just Xbox shooting themselves in the foot, and then here they are saying that they need these smaller projects to get them, some people to look at them, and it gives them some prestige and some awards and stuff like that. it's crazy that they're literally talking about Tango GameWorks here with Hi-Fi Rush, and they closed them down like a day or two after this statement came out internally. Um, so yeah, it's just crazy. So all this has just been really weird, very very strange. And to top off the whole thing, vengeful players in Fallout 76 are nuking Phil Spencer's camp. So Phil Spencer, famously supporter of Fallout 76, says he plays it all the time. He has a camp in a few, I guess, maps or on the map, and people can actually do PVE stuff and stuff with him. But there's also the PvP element of the game where you can initiate combat. And even though he's not spawned in his camp, people have been nuking his camp pretty much the entire weekend, sending nukes to it and blowing it up. I don't know if it actually does anything. I don't know if his camp is actually destroyed, or if he spawns in, would he immediately die because of the radiation? I don't really know how it works in Fallout 76. All I do know is these people they're just pretty much spamming nukes. As soon as they can, another nuke is launched at his camp, and you know that is his camp because his player tag in the game is P3, and he's shown it on Twitter and stuff before, so we know who it is, and we know that's him. The articles have come out about him like sharing supplies and helping other players in the game under the Monkier P3. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also like, okay, I mean, is it really doing anything? I don't know, just whatever. I don't know. And once again, I don't think that Phil Spencer is like the main person to point your finger at, but it is very strange once again that he has said nothing on the matter. And let me just double check the news. Let me just double check the news. No, nothing recently. So yeah, he's still quiet, and he might be quiet until it all blows over, and who knows how long that'll take. And there's also the Xbox game, like the summer showcase that they're going to be showing off that I talked about last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? I forget. So I'm sure that the comment section in the live stream is going to be very, very interesting to read. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to some Nintendo stuff. The Nintendo of Japan account put out a statement from Furukawa, who is the president of Nintendo. In the statement, and of course it was translated, so I apologize for any weird sounding sentence structure because it is translated. It says, "This is Furukawa, president of Nintendo. We will make an announcement about the successor to the Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year. It will have been over 9 years since we announced the existence of Nintendo Switch back in March 2015. We'll now be holding a Nintendo Direct this June regarding the Nintendo Switch software lineup for the later half of 2024. But please be aware that there will be no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during that presentation." So it is a very Nintendo thing to just like nonchalantly like release a statement confirming that the Nintendo Switch successor is coming out within the next year, and with that statement, it's like, well, we at least know that it's coming. Do we know exactly what it is? No, we don't know exactly what it is, but we do know it's supposedly a successor to the Switch. Now, will it be called Switch 2, Switch Pro, Switch Plus, Super Switch, whatever? Who knows at this point? But it seems like maybe in the December Direct, if there will be a December Direct, but maybe in the December Direct, it's going to be like a reveal for the new console, or maybe they'll do like a show for the new console. Maybe. I mean, people are predicting that the new console will come out sometime in next year, probably during like the later half of the fiscal year, but still next year. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Usually if you look at console launches, usually they start the hype train about a year early, right? And there's already been plenty of things to talk about regarding the Switch 2. I mean, people are making content about this thing, just speculating and taking little nuggets of information and going with them. Recently, they were asked to clarify what the next like is if it's going to be a next gen console or whatever. And Furukawa answered, "Switch next model is an appropriate way to describe it." So that might mean that it really is just like a better version of the Switch, which I guess wouldn't be a bad thing. Especially if like I've said this before, I'll say it again. The next version of the Switch needs to play Switch cartridges. There's too big of a player base not to be able to play your Switch cartridges on the Switch 2. You're axing a bunch of people with their giant libraries from like just outright wanting to get a Switch 2, right? And I guess the other thing that Nintendo is usually good at is not releasing the new games on the older systems, which I know is also a way to kind of alienate a part of your player base. But if the games are good and the games are playing well and people are talking highly of them, then you don't have anything to worry about because people will go out and just buy a Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called. There was an idea talked about on the Nintendo podcast that I liked where Nintendo sticks with the Switch cartridge but makes them a little bit bigger so they don't fit into the Switch 1 hole. But the Switch 2 has a hole that allows for the Switch cartridges to be played along with the Switch 2 in the same slot. They did that on the Nintendo DS, I believe, where you could still play DS games on the 3DS, but the 3DS had that little notch on it that didn't allow it to go into the regular DS. So they might do something like that. I had the idea to make a dock built into a console, essentially, where you plug in your Switch to the console. But the console itself is the Switch 2 per se, but you can still play things on the Switch, the regular Switch, which doesn't seem very likely at this point, but you never know. Yeah, I guess we'll wait to hear more information about that. In further Nintendo news, the Nintendo Switch is losing its Twitter posting ability. So on June 10th, 2024, it will no longer be possible to post screenshots and videos to X, formerly called Twitter, from the Nintendo Switch's album, or send friend requests to social media users via friend suggestions feature. Now, X Gaming came out and said, the gaming community is one of the largest and most vibrant communities on the platform, and we are dedicated to enhancing and supporting gaming-related features. As part of Nintendo's planned discontinuation of sharing content from X from the Nintendo Switch from June 11th, users will need to download Switch gameplay media directly to their smartphones and share it natively on the platform. We worked together with Nintendo throughout this process to ensure API access for this integration, but ultimately it was a product decision made by Nintendo. Our partnership with Nintendo remains strong, and we are working together to ensure a smooth transition for all users. We continue collaborating with partners and bring new and exciting experiences to our global gaming communities. Wow, it really seems like Nintendo's the bad guy here, huh? Oh, wait, there was another post here. Hold on. Oh, yes, added context by the users of Twitter. So Nintendo is actually directly responding to the changes of the API, like we already heard from the X Twitter account. But specifically, Twitter is going to start charging companies $40,000 or more per month to access its API. Sony and Microsoft had already removed the integration with X last year because of this change that's coming, and now Nintendo has officially decided to drop them as well because of the insane charges to just allow people to post Twitter posts from their consoles onto Twitter. I personally don't use this feature a lot. I used it with the PlayStation a little bit when I did like platinum trophies, but now it's like, why? It doesn't even matter. I don't go for platinum trophies, right? It's funny how the @X Gaming Twitter account worded this whole thing, making it seem like, oh, this was a Nintendo decision. We've been trying to work with them with the new API access and blah 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 blah. And it's like, oh, woe is us. And it's like, oh yeah, but we were going to be charging like $40,000 per month to access the API from the Switch. And it's like, at this point, yeah. Really, I mean, it's pretty shady what what X tried to do, but community notes don't usually miss, and this one definitely is a hit for them. So yeah, you won't be able to post like screenshots or videos from the Switch to Twitter. I don't know who really uses this feature, but you'll just have to download the video files and stuff to an external device and then upload them if you want to, which is not a huge deal, but it is an extra step, and I know from my line of work, people don't like a few extra steps. And the last thing for Nintendo main news today, the Nintendo Museum is now complete and it's scheduled to open in the fall. So the Nintendo Museum was originally scheduled to complete in March, but it took a little bit of extra time. They're planning on opening the museum in autumn of 2024, so fall of 2024. So it is located in Kyoto, Uji City, Kyoto. And they are, just getting prepared to open it right now. In a post, it said, "Lastly, we'd like to give an update for the status of Nintendo Museum in Uji City, Kyoto. The museum's building is already complete, and we are currently getting ready for opening. Since we anticipate these preparations will take some time, we have set the opening for fall of 2024. Going forward, we will continue to create points of contact with customers by promoting various initiatives to utilize the Nintendo IP in a wide range of fields." So yeah, I mean, we can only guess what is going to be displayed in the Nintendo Museum, but it's probably going to be a lot of rare Nintendo stuff. Pristine condition consoles from their past, and maybe even like concept or prototype models as well. I can only assume that the Golf 4 Game Boy is going to be there as well, which was removed from the New York Nintendo store sometime last year or the year before that. So I'm excited to see what's all going to be on display and stuff like that. Maybe eventually in the future we'll take a trip to Japan, but it's expensive. I'll tell you what. But it would be cool. I think it would be really cool to go there and see it. But might have to stick with some virtual tours from here on out. And finally, for the news today, the next Battlefield game is in development, and EA has said that it is the largest development team they've ever had. Now, Battlefield 2042 launched back in 2021. I was very critical of it, and a lot of other people were as well. It has received a lot of updates, but it was never able to recover the player base that it had at the beginning. People just don't want to even look in the general direction of Battlefield 2042 at this point. But EA, they're optimistic about the next Battlefield. The CEO, Andrew Wilson, boasted that the next title is being put together by the largest Battlefield team in franchise history. We don't know exactly how large that is, but we can only guess that it's bigger than 1,500, which I think was how big the 2042 person group was. Correct me if I'm wrong. He also said that our teams have listened to the community, have learned valuable lessons, and are driving to the future. Motive, armed with cutting-edge Frostbite technology and compelling storytelling, is joining DICE, Criterion, and Ripple Effect to build a Battlefield universe across connected multiplayer and single-player experiences. They also said that they have a few weeks to go. A few weeks ago, they were visiting the teams, and he couldn't be more excited about what they showed and what they were able to play. So it sounds like they're bringing back single-player, and they're also, working on the multiplayer, fixing the things that were panned or criticized about the other installment. 2042 suffered from a strange lack of content and maps and eventually player base. The maps are just way too big for the number of players playing. You couldn't find anyone. The vehicles were there was you could call in vehicles and everyone was calling in the airship and it was just ruining the game. There was a lot of things wrong with it. I think the gameplay itself was fine, but the overall how the game played was just not great. And they had that whole vault mode where you could play the older games like Bad Company 2 and 1941, right? And those were cool, but they just weren't fleshed out like the original games were, of course. And at the end of the day, you kind of want some sort of single player content to whether it just be a defense mode or a co-op mode or whatever. You look at Battlefield 4 and 3, and they had campaigns, they had the co-op mission mode, which is kind of like the Spec Ops from Modern Warfare, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a full package, plus the multiplayer was on there as well. And 2042 just kind of lacked that stuff at the beginning, and I don't know how good the game is now. I haven't played it since it launched. I have it digitally, so I could play it anytime I want, technically. And maybe I will load it up and see how it's going. But at this point, I don't expect to do that. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the show, which is usually the first part of the show, which is what have I been playing this past week? All right, I was debating what to talk about first here because both the games, well, two of the games I'm talking about are going to talk about are very popular right now. But I decided Hades 2 would be the best way to start off. And Hades 2 is, of course, the sequel to Hades, which was one of my favorite games the year that came out. I believe it was number 7 that year. And Hades really is one of those games that kind of opened me up to playing more roguelikes or roguelikes, however you want to call it. Even though I'm still not a huge fan of the roguelite model. I do appreciate what Hades does with the rogue genre, because I mean it always amazes me how many new dialogues and stuff that you can do when you die in Hades 1, and in Hades 2 is the same way, where you go into the battlefield and maybe you don't make it all the way, maybe you don't get too far. And you come back and, you have a whole bunch of new people to talk to. Some people are missing because they're doing whatever. It's a very interesting way to do it. It keeps the story going. And I mean, even with how many times I died going through Hades 1, I never really heard the same dialogue or had nothing to do when I was back in the hub world. Even when I was getting closer to the end of the game, like I still was getting new stuff being added on top of each other. And it's just kind of crazy. I'm hoping that Hades 2 goes the same way. I mean, I don't think it won't. But it's been a very fun experience so far, and there's a lot of people saying that it's like a step above Hades 1. Honestly, it does. I mean, is it better than Hades 1? I do think so. But I don't think it's like a whole step above it. It still has a lot of what made Hades 1 work, and it is very much a game that's related to Hades 1. All the regular game mechanics, like calling on the gods to give you special abilities, getting new weapons through playing the game. Having these little missions to do on the side that give you extra things, having a shop and having people to talk to, being able to give gifts to the various characters in the game, and meeting characters throughout the world, and obviously going from one battle arena to the next one is still very much a choice driven thing, where it's like, do I want this or this? Do I want to visit the store, or do I want to get these resources, right? And you fight depending on what you want. Where the game does start to differ is, there's like a new god or two in there. There's a blacksmith now that you can call upon, which is new. You can also mine and get resources during your playthrough. You can unlock like a shovel and a pickaxe and a fishing rod. You can actually get resources by using those. The weird thing is you can only use one per playthrough. So if you're looking for something in particular, you're lucky. But if you need multiple things, then you got to go through the game like 3 times to get all the different resources, which is kind of annoying to me personally. But whatever. You go through the game enough that you can change it up a bit. The game also differs with the weapons. I mean, the 3 weapons that I've unlocked so far are pretty different from the original games. There's like the staff that has a pretty average attack. There's 2 daggers that you can get, which are really quick. And then you have like a battle axe, which has the most damage, obviously the most slowest. And obviously there are comparable weapons in the first game too, so it's not like it's completely and wholly unique, but they're different enough that I don't feel like it's just rehashing the same ground, right? Also, there's a lot of different different things you can do with this game, because the main character Melanie is a witch. She has a bunch of witchy elements to her, and the world is much more witchy, right? Which is cool. I like that a lot. So you have like an ensnare move, among other things as well. There's special abilities attached to each weapon, and then you also have your main ability, which is the trap people, and then you can damage them. And the whole magic element of the game, I think the first game also had magic as well, but this one definitely uses it more, where it's it's a bit more powerful. It's a bit more useful, in my opinion. I don't know. And yeah, I mean, the structure of the game is still the same, though. You start off, you fight the first boss, you go to the next area, you fight the second boss. If you lose, you have to go back and fight the first boss again, then the second boss again, right? And each run does change things up. Maybe not a whole lot, but the different runs do change things up depending on what gods you can talk to and what upgrades you can find. Now, the game is in early access right now, and I don't know how long it's going to be in early access. But essentially, the game is pretty much. I mean, I have not. I mean, it feels like a full release to me. There's a couple placeholder images for characters in there, but for the most part, I think that it's pretty much a full package. If you buy it now, you're not going to be disappointed. I mean, it has almost as much, if not as much, content as the original Hades did. Like I said, it's just missing like maybe some fine tuning and some portraits for these characters, and that's pretty much it. So, I mean, if you're looking to play the game, you're not gonna have you're gonna have a good time. If you like Hades 1, you're gonna like Hades 2. I think that they're similar enough that you can easily transition from one to the other. They are a little bit different in ways, like I said, but it's not like a huge difference in my opinion. There's some articles out there that are talking about how the game is so different. It's hardly even comparable. I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. For me personally, Hades 2, it's a nice continuation of what Hades 1 was doing. Does that mean that it's going to be as good as Hades 1? I guess I'll have to wait and see by the time that I get to eventually I get to the final boss. But so far, I'm having a good time with it. I've taken a little bit of a break to finish some other games that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But I am excited to get back to it and see how long it's going to take me to beat this one, because Hades 1 was quite a struggle for me. But maybe it's because it was, I wasn't really used to the roguelike gameplay. I don't know. But yeah, I am finding Melina Way's character more interesting than her brother and the story of her brother. Even though I like the first game's story, this one's definitely setting up to be a little bit more interesting. And I like the character designs in there as well. They all look great. I don't even know if I want to get into the controversy, quote unquote, for the game. Essentially, it's just people being a bit racist. Let's be honest, people being a bit racist. Because it's like, do you really know what these characters look like? It's based on mythology, right? The same thing could be said for portraits of like Jesus and stuff like that for Christianity. There's a correlation there, right? We don't actually know what he looked like, So how do we know what these gods looked like? Get a grip. Seriously. But essentially, there's one character that I don't even want to go into. I don't want to go. It's just stupid. It is really stupid. Look into it yourself. Get your own opinion, I guess. But in my opinion, it's just people being a bit unfair. And I think it is racially motivated, and it's unfortunate. But that's the world we live in. That's the world. That's the Twitter world we live in. All right, let's talk about Animal Well. Well. This has been a game that's been on my radar for quite some time, not only because it is a really interesting, cool-looking game, but also because it's the first game coming from Big Mode, which is Video Game Donkey's publishing studio or publishing partnership. I don't know how you want to say it. The build-up to the game seemed like a long road. I feel like we've been hearing about Animal Well for at least 3 or so years now. So the hype for the game was at an all-time high, especially by the time that the game was officially ready to launch. First, we saw Video Game Donkey and the developer in a Nintendo Indie Direct, and that was really cool. And then we kept kind of getting more and more stuff with them. And I think now that the game is released, I think it's a widely successful game. Not only in sales, but also in terms of enjoyability and depth as well. The game is surprisingly deep for a game called Animal Well. So, what is Animal Well? It is a Metroidvania first and foremost. So, if you're not a fan of Metroidvanias, then you might want to stay away from it because it is very much Metroidvania. It's more related to Metroid than I was expecting, with just how the passages work and how the new special abilities and gadgets you get work. And it's also very much Metroid because there is really no direction for you. They start you off, you come out of this little like seed pod, this plant pod, I guess you'd say, and you just kind of go. And there's a little bit of direction at the beginning because it's a kind of linear at the beginning, of course, with a couple of small little puzzles here and there. And then you get the map and you get into the main section of the world, and yeah, they kind of let you do your own thing. And there's a lot of people who are struggling right now because they're not sure where to go or what to do. And I would say just go. Like there's really like there's no true right way to go. Sure, you can run into some roadblocks here and there where you need a specific item or something like that, but as long as you have an idea of what you want to do and have and you're confident in your abilities in a platformer, you can go pretty much anywhere you want and work it out. The first place that I went to was fully left, so if you want to do that, you can. You run into a cat shrine or whatever it is, and if you take the disc that's in the shrine's mouth, Ghost will follow you and do damage to you, but you don't need to get. I guess my first point of hints is you don't actually need to take that disc right away. You can go through the level and then come back and get the disc, which will make it much easier to get through to the places you need to go. So I guess that's my one hint. That's all I'm going to give for the beginning of the game because a lot of people are getting stuck at that beginning section. And like I said before, it's not like you need to be there at the beginning. You don't need to go that way, but it is a way that I would actually recommend to go first because it gives you that the throwable disc, which is nice. But yeah, the game is set up much like any Metroidvania. Multiple rooms to go into, lots of little hidden secrets in the nooks and crannies. The nice thing about this game is the collectibles actually you're working towards something, and that is one of my favorite things about the game. Is you're not going off the beaten path to find these collectibles for no reason, much like a lot of other Metroidvanias. You're going there to get there's a bunch of like eggs hidden in chests. You get them, and then if you get enough, you'll unlock something new in the egg room. And some of the things are actually really, really useful. One of the first things you unlock is the fast travel room, which I did not realize was there until. It took me what? I would say I was pretty much at the end of the game. I was lost trying to get to the last objective, quote unquote, and I just kind of stumbled into the egg room just to be like, oh, what's happening in here? I've collected a bunch of eggs. And 2 doors unlocked at the same time for me because I've been collecting so many and I hadn't been in there. So the first one was like a fast travel room. The second one was a little flute that could activate. Well, I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, it was very useful stuff. Very useful stuff, especially the fast travel room. That was the most useful for me personally. The graphics in the game, I love them. The kind of like VCR filter or whatever over like the DOS kind of looking images, very cool. Love that a lot. CRT, I guess I meant to call it CRT filter. It all looks great. The gameplay is smooth like butter. Like the jumping and stuff, everything just kind of works together so well. Understanding the tricks of the different gizmos that you get is also very important, especially like the bubble wand was very important to learn how to use that properly because it was such a help throughout the entire game. And the puzzles too are just so interesting. There's some puzzles that they stumped me a little bit, and I kind of had to think about it and go back to it. But for the most part, when I got to a puzzle, I tried to get it done as best I could. There was only a couple puzzles that I had to come back to because I was missing an item for them. And that was mostly towards the upper area of the map. I think the right and left are the true starting points for the game, where it's like you can go either way and get something important, but if you go upwards, it's not going to be like you are gonna run into more roadblocks if you go up, I guess. Um, but yeah, there was some really good. I mean, most of the puzzles were just really really good. There's another gadget you can get that's like a slinky that really was it was such a blast to solve the puzzles with that thing. Like, man, I wish I could go back and solve those puzzles for the first time again, because that was so much fun to just use that slinky. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to give too much away because the game is brand new. But I mean, come on, it was just so much fun. Like the little gizmos you get are just so incredibly fun. And there are some people complaining about the inventory system. I wasn't too bent up about it. I mean, you can either press Y or triangle to open up your inventory and choose what you want, or you can just you can scroll through your items with RB and LB, which is what I did usually because it's pretty fast. I mean, there's only like 8 items at the end of it all, and they're all fairly useful. There's only one that I found unuseful for the most part, but maybe I just didn't find the right place to use it yet. Oh, by the way, I did finish the game. I was enjoying it so much that I just spent pretty much the entirety of the afternoon yesterday working my way through it, and it was very much worth it. And at the end of the day, I didn't get all the eggs, but I'm pretty close. I would say I'm pretty close. There's still some things I don't know what to do with yet that I have to go back and figure out. But it's definitely one of those games where it's like, okay, you get to the end and you feel like you've accomplished something. You feel like you've done it. You've done something. And there's still more to do, obviously, after you're done with the game. Even if you 100% get all the eggs and stuff, there's still more things to do after that. So there's some extra stuff to do there. Is there a lot of replayability to this game? I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of replayability, but there's a lot of continued playability, right? Just going through and finishing things up. So I guess that's enough for me personally. But if you are a person who's concerned about replayability, I feel like after your first playthrough, I don't know if there's really a good reason to go back and play through the game again, unless you want to, just kind of do speed runs or something to the game. I don't know, just really work on your routing and stuff like that, I guess. Because there's plenty of different ways that you can probably finish this game, and obviously, I think most people are going to use the way that I did. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, there was a lot of really cool moments and really great ideas in this game. There's one whole section with like moving platforms, and you need to like reverse the platforms to get through the area. And once you get through the entire area, once again, I don't want to give it away though, but it's really cool. Like the whole area is really cool. It makes you really think hard about what you're doing. And it's a bit of a challenge here and there. Obviously there were moments where I got stuck dying over and over and over again, but you just gotta kind of persevere. I would say like 90% of the time, the problem wasn't that I was missing something. The problem was that I was just not doing good enough with my timing and my platforming, right? And even though, like I said before, there are times where you will run into something where, oh, well, I guess I need something different to try this out. I found that a lot of times if I just kept thinking about it and I kept trying different things, I would get through it without having to go, take a break and try and find something that I'm missing. Because usually I wasn't missing anything. I was just not thinking about it in the right way, or I wasn't doing it fast enough, or whatever, right? So that's another thing that I learned too. If you run into a roadblock and you're not sure exactly how to get through, a lot of the time you can get through. It's just maybe you're just not maybe you're just not thinking clearly, or maybe you're just not thinking about it hard enough. I don't know. I don't want to presume anything, but yeah, just some tips, I guess, to help you out. Like, because there was a couple times where I felt like I needed to turn around and go a different way, or turn around and try and find something to get past this. But I ended up having what I needed, or I ended up being able to solve the problem without having to go and come back, which is nice. I like games that, they don't necessarily need you to have all the upgrades to get through an area. It might help, but, whatever. The music is also great in the game. I really enjoyed the music. I thought it was a brilliantly designed soundtrack, very ominous at times. Very exciting at times, very spooky at times. Also, like the general vibe of the entire game is kind of like the atmosphere of the game is just very thick. It's very good. Like they pour it on in this game, and There's just so much to explore and so much to find. It's not the longest Metroidvania ever, but it definitely meshed with me. I was very happy with it by the end of it all. And I just yeah, I was very happy with the overall product and all the little different secrets and puzzles and there's some boss fights in there, and yeah, I really loved it a lot, which is why I ended up giving Animal Whale a 5 out of 5. And at the end of it all, I was really happy with my time with it. I really could not think of anything that was negative about the game. And even though there are people complaining about the inventory system, I didn't have any problem with it myself. But I could see that being a bit of like maybe take off a point for that. I didn't though, because I was just so happy about the game. I was very pleased with the game and the end results of the game. So definitely check out Animal Well if you're a fan of 2D platformers, Metroidvanias, etc. And yeah, enjoy if you do end up getting it. I don't think it's. I mean, it's obviously not going to be a game for everyone, but I think it's going to be a game that will click with a lot of, if not all, Metroidvania fans. And me personally, I really wasn't a big fan of Metroidvanias until like a couple years ago now. Like I played that Fist Force and Shadow Torch, and it kind of just like Metroidvania just started clicking for me, right? And even though I still haven't finished Metroid 2 or whatever on the SNES, I've grown to really enjoy my time with Metroidvanias, and if they're done well, that's a plus. And this one is done extremely well. Next up is Little Kitty Big City, which came to Xbox Game Pass of all places, and I played it on there. And it was a fun game. I wasn't expecting the game to be as intricate as I was expecting, but it was a welcomed surprise. So the game starts off, of course, you are a little kitty and you fall off of your balcony or whatever that you're laying on, and you end up in the streets. And you need essentially the game is almost set up like a Metroidvania, where it's like, okay, you need to get these abilities and get this amount of stamina in order to climb back up to your windowsill and finish the game off, right? And throughout that journey, you meet a couple of characters that I was really fond of. There's this duck guy who just keeps talking forever. There was a chameleon who was not very good at hiding, but he thought he was. There was also a couple cats that you run into with the cat type personalities. Um, yeah, there was also like this beetle as well that had a pretty fun storyline. And there was a Tanuki as well who opened up the fast travel system for you, which wasn't really needed per se, but it was welcomed, I guess. But yeah, I mean, the game was pretty cute, pretty cozy, you know? I think that if you like a more chill, laid back kind of experience, this is definitely going to be a game that will catch your eye. The game was a little bit janky in a lot of ways because you're controlling a cat. Things are kind of like cat. I mean, it's almost like Stray, except a little bit more free, I guess you could say. Because Stray was very much like, oh, you can only jump here or you can only do this, whereas you can really do anything you want with this little kitty in the big city. But essentially, the cat didn't feel great at first. You kind of had to get used to it because it's a bit more loosey goosey with its movements and stuff like that, and you really felt like you were actually controlling a cat. Like you weren't just controlling a blob that moved like any other blob, right? It really felt like you were controlling a cat, especially with like the turning and stuff like that. I really felt like, yeah, it definitely feels like I have four legs and my body is in two pieces, right? You know. So I just had to get used to it. Maybe you'll never get used to it. I did get used to it in the end. But the game is a bit janky, especially with the jumping, the climbing, the camera. It's just kind of all over the place, which did bring the game down, in my opinion. Because there were times where it was a bit frustrating. It's like, why isn't this working? Or why did this happen? Or why did I jump all the way down here? Or whatever. Like there was a lot of weird moments where it didn't feel great. And I was enjoying the game throughout the experience, but it was just one of those things where it's like, every so often the jank would set in, and something would happen, and you'd be like, well, that's annoying. I gotta climb all the way back up there. I gotta do this all over again. But other than that, the only other criticism I really have is like the city is not really that big. I was really hoping for like more to the city. And even though what they did design was great, I enjoyed going around the area. I did feel like it needed to be a bit more fleshed out, a bit larger in terms of like a city, right? But it has all the staples of it: skyscrapers, a park, some riverside stuff. Some ancient, not ancient, but like kind of older Japanese culture type things mixed in there. There was like a supermarket area and some stores to go into and stuff. But it felt like it needed more of that. It needed like another section or two to really flesh it out, give it like a really nice map layout. Because for what it is fine. But I was hoping for more to explore, more to really sink my teeth into, right? Um, but I think that in general, the pros do outweigh the cons in this one. Um, it was there's some really fun dialogue in there. The cat was obviously really cute. Finding the different hats as well was also a lot of fun. Um, unlocking the fast travel system and stuff like that was nice. Meeting all these characters, and then through when you do your final climb, you get to talk to them one more time before you get to your window and stuff. It's a very cute game, very cozy game. I said that before, but I'll say it again. That's really what the game, you know, really relies on, I guess. And it could use a little bit more of touching up in different areas. But I think that for the most part, if you play Little Kitty Big City, I think you're gonna have a good time. And because I had a good time generally, I had a good time, and I guess it is kind of a good thing that I wanted to be a little bit longer, a little bit bigger. I don't know. I think it is kind of a little bit of a good thing, but it is what it is, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was cute, thought it was fun, but it's got a little bit too much jank in there, and it's got a little bit too small of a map for my tastes. Next up, I also played and finished Open Roads, which has been on my list for a little while. It came to the Xbox Game Pass. Oh, I don't even know. It came a while ago. The game released maybe a month or two ago now, and I've heard some good things about it, and I was excited to check it out. Unfortunately, though, I didn't really connect with it. I didn't really enjoy my time with it. It could just be a personal thing, or it could just be a general thing. I don't know. I just wasn't really vibing with it. The character animations were, they kept repeating over and over and over again, and I didn't like how the main character was written. She's like a 16-year-old girl, but she talks like she's like 30. And it's like I don't understand. Like just make the character a little bit older. Like you make the character like 5 years older and the dialogue makes sense, right? But no, she's 16 years old and she's doing all these things that you wouldn't expect a 16-year-old to do or say. And I was like, whatever, like, oh, come on. It just a little bit immersion breaking, I guess you could say. And the game is also incredibly short. I mean, you call the game Open Roads, but you're only on the road for like 2 scenes in the game, and they're very short scenes. There's one scene where you drive to like a summer home and you explore the summer home, and then you drive to, I guess there's 3 driving scenes. I'm sorry. You drive to a motel, and then you drive to, this old dock, and you're unraveling a mystery throughout the entire thing. And then, I mean, I guess the story in general is kind of interesting. The whole the background story with her grandma and stuff like that. I mean, there's some things to appreciate about the game. But for the most part, I just found the dialogue to be a bit insufferable at times. I found the game to be incredibly slow. For a point-and-click game, it just doesn't feel great either, which is interesting. Also, it's very funny how your mom just teleports into wherever you are if you need to talk to her, which is also just very strange. Like they could have done this so much in a much better way. And even though the character designs are fun to look at, I just, once again, the repeating animations and stuff like that, it's just kind of gets really old really quickly. Yeah, I didn't connect with the game really at all, and of course, I mean, maybe it is geared towards a different demographic, of course, but I feel like in general a good game can connect with multiple people, no matter what background you're in or you have.
This one just didn't do it for me. So in the end, I gave it a 2 out of 5. I know it sounds a bit harsh, but I was very bored while playing. I didn't like how the characters were written. I didn't like the animations of the characters. The story was interesting enough to keep me going, but that's not enough to give it a positive review. So 2 out of 5 is where I stand with it. I mean, you might like it if you try it out. I mean, it's only 2 hours long. It's not a big time sink or anything like that. So maybe check it out if you so desire. We finished 2 games on stream this week: SteamWorld Heist and What the Golf. But SteamWorld Heist was the first one that we finished, and I would like to talk about that one first because this one was a bit of a turnaround for me. When it first came out on the DS, and then later I bought it on Steam during a sale, I didn't really vibe with it. I wasn't like into the turn-based combat, and I didn't like the manual aiming of the guns and whatever. And I mean, when the game originally came out, what was it, like 2014, 2015, something like that? I mean, that's a long time. I mean, that's over 10 years ago now, maybe more like 9. When I originally played the game, I guess I just wasn't in the right place in my gaming career, I guess you would say. Nowadays, I'm much more open to multiple genres, and I enjoy multiple genres. It's why making the top 10 list every year is so difficult nowadays, is because I play so many games and I enjoy so many different games and different genres. I don't really have one genre that I stick to. Even nowadays, like it's not just platformers and first person shooters. There's so much more mixed in, and a lot of genres also collide. There's a lot of games that have multiple genres, and I like those games more so than just the regular one genre game. It can't, if it's just a platformer, it can be nice, but if it's just a platformer. But now we have, it's a platformer with Metroidvania, with management systems. There's so many different ways that you can morph and change the genre of games. And I guess that's part of the newer gaming landscape that I'm really enjoying. And you usually see those types of things in the indie scene. You don't really see that change in the AAA space, because AAA games are mostly content to stay with what they know and makes money, right? The indie game space is really what you want to support, and you want to find new genres and stuff like that, because they're the ones pushing stuff forward, and the AAA studios are really just following along, mimicking what they're doing for a lot of times. I mean, look at Prince of Persia: the Lost Crown. I mean, there was no other Metroidvania Prince of Persia game, but now, because Metroidvanias are so popular, they made a Metroidvania. Now they're making that roguelite game as well, because roguelites are more popular now. It's in this. I mean, that roguelite game looks like it's in the same vein as Dead Cells or something like that. So it's like, yeah, I mean, indie games definitely pave the way for bigger studios. And even though SteamWorld Heist, let's get back on track, hasn't inspired anything in the modern gaming landscape in terms of AAA, I think the game is very, very well done. I really enjoyed the puzzle aspect of it, trying to position your characters in the right place, and learning their strengths and weaknesses, and giving them the right weapons for the job and stuff like that. I felt like it was a very well done experience, a very unique experience. And with the second game coming out, I do hope that the open world aspect of the game will really flesh it out. I also just need to maybe fine tune some of the different mechanics, but for the most part, SteamWorld Heist is just a really good time. I really enjoyed it. If you like the SteamWorld games, it has that SteamWorld charm and vibe to it. It's got the usual SteamWorld story where you start off with some unassuming bandits or whatever, and then as you dig deeper into the game, you see the super evil robots who want to destroy the world and stuff like that come out. And this game is no different from all the other SteamWorld games. But I really enjoyed the vibe of this one. It's no longer my least favorite SteamWorld game. I'll give it that. And I haven't really thought about like a ranking of my SteamWorld games, because I've played them all at this point, even the tower defense one, for as limited of a time as I did when it was still available. And even then, even back then, I wasn't like, I didn't even know what I was playing. I was just like, what was I, like 16 and playing a phone game, like, But I really I can't like I really can't say like I guess the tower defense game would be my least favorite just because it's the one that I played the least, and it was a phone game and it didn't really have much to it, right, except for the fun design of the SteamWorld characters. After that, like, I mean, there's a huge leap in these games because like SteamWorld Dig 1, 2, now Heist, Quest, and Build are all like fantastic games that I really enjoy. I give them all 4 and I'm sorry, 4 to 4.5 out of 5. So it would be really tough for me to choose what would be my least favorite SteamWorld game, and I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But Heist, I don't think Heist would be down there. We'll see how Heist 2 is. It could knock Heist, the original Heist lower, but I'm very this has made me very excited for the second game. When it was announced, I was excited, of course. It was unexpected, but I was excited, and I knew that I had to retry this game, give it another chance because it's a game that I wanted to really like back in the day. I just couldn't really wrap my head around it. But now, however many years later, I've played it, I finished it, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. S tier, easy. And then we also finished What the Golf? Which was a gift from Kalas. Thank you so much, Kalas. I enjoyed the game enough. I thought it was goofy, kind of wacky, But as you go through the game, the ideas in the wells start to dry up, and even though they're introducing different mechanics and different things, there are some underlying ideas that just never change when you get to that point in the game. And I was starting to get kind of bored with it just being like samey, right? And even though, like I said, there's different mechanics that you're playing with, the level design stuff is relatively the same. Where you have a new mechanic, like instead of shooting a golf ball, you're shooting a gun in first person, and you're with golf balls loaded in it. And it's like, okay, that's cool and wacky. But then you need to do it in par, and then you need to do it faster. Then you need to do it and do knock down cats. Then you need to race a sheep. And it's just like, okay, come on now, like really, come on. The overall vibe of the game was great. I liked it a lot, but not enough to want to play more of it. Right? I finished the main game. We played some of the bonus missions. We did the daily challenge. And it was just all kind of like, okay, yeah. I mean, there's some really interesting ideas in here, and I'm hoping that What the Car game can really go farther than this one in terms of like keeping up the momentum, keeping it fun, keeping it funny, because it was really around the time where the super hot levels were in there. That was kind of the peak, right? Where the super hot levels, and then there was the portal levels. Those are kind of the peak of the game. After that, it just kind of meandered until the end of the game, which I mean, the ending was fine, but yeah, I mean, I can recommend this one though. I mean, it was a fun time if you can get it on sale or whatever. I thought that it was a fun enough time. It was goofy, it was a bit avant-garde, but and there were some fun gags and stuff in there as well that I enjoyed. But all in all, I gave it a 3.5. I'm still positive on it, but there's some things that they can probably fix in the next game that would make things a little bit better. Just I hated racing that sheep. The sheep showed up so often in the game, and I was like, come on, do we not have any more ideas than race the sheep? Like, come on. And maybe that's why it's a 3.5. I don't know, but I gave it a B tier in the end. So there you go. I also played 100 Dino Cats. I watched The Good Dinosaur, a Pixar movie. I didn't really like The Good Dinosaur, but I was in a dinosaur mood, so I booted this game up and I was like, "Hey, let's see if this is any better than the last one that we played." No, not really. I mean, the picture was better drawn, but the designs of the characters and the cats awful. Not much to it. 1 out of 5. Stay clear of the 100. Pretty much any of the 100 cat games. Stay clear of them. There are point and click cat games that are actually good. Like the Cats Hidden In is pretty good, and the Arcade Full of Cats. I stand by that. That's a good game. But any of these 100 cat games, They just seem to be cash grabs. Not even cash grabs because they're free. But there is DLC where you can get a new map or whatever. It's just annoying. It's stupid, and this one was bad, just like the last one. And I haven't played one of these in a while, so I wanted to at least see if I was still in the same boat as 100 Robo Cats or whatever it was called. And yeah, they haven't gotten any better. And probably the only one that I'll play after this is the 100 Pirate Cats, which is supposed to come out sometime this month or next month. After that, I'll probably never play one of these again, but they'll be on my list just in case I need a little pick-me-up, a little boost to my overall games completed score, I guess. I don't know. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the final part of the show. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Boop, 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 boop. Oh my gosh, a special report from a special blue-haired person. Kalas, what have you got for us today?
Thank you, Yemmy. And hello once again. It is I, Kalas, to talk a little bit more about Endless Ocean Luminous. Now, last time I talked about this, I raved about it, I gave it praise, and I thought it was well-deserved. But since then, I've played a little bit more, and I've also decided to, listen to, I was listening to a podcast and where they talked about a review for this game. And, I decided to find out why it was, giving such low scores, why it was, seemingly hated by so many people, by so many reviewers. And I found out why, and I think I understand now, and I think I agree with those negative opinions. So I thought it'd be justified if I came back and explained to everyone why it was getting negative reviews, in case you're still, on the fence about buying it or not. Just to set clear expectations. So, here's the thing. I talked about the story mode, and how there's, I think, 5 chapters. So, last time I talked about this, I had played through chapter 2, and I needed to scan, what was it? I think 2,000 something fish total to unlock the next chapter, 2-3 or whatever it was. And then for 3-1, the requirement jumped up to 3,100 fish, or 3,200. And it seems like a lot, but like I explained last time, you hold L to scan and you can scan entire schools of fish. So you get 20, 30, 40, 50, all in one scan if there's a bunch grouped up. So I thought it wasn't too bad. But now, I just finished chapter 3-1, and to unlock 3-2, I need to scan 4,500 fish. So it's going up by more than 1,000 each time now. And it's getting to a point where it's getting a bit excessive. So I go in and dive, and I go through an entire... if I do an entire online dive, I scan maybe a couple hundred fish, maybe 400 or 500, which means I'd have to do a couple dives to unlock the next chapter. And here's the thing, I did chapter 3-1, and it was literally only dialogue, 0 gameplay at all. All the other ones had at least a little bit of swimming where they told you to go a certain place or told you to investigate something, but 3-1 is literally only dialogue. It only moved the story forward a little bit, and that's it. That's your reward. So this is one of the complaints. And like I said, the story isn't really the focus of the game. It's not the point of this game. The point is exploring and going out and, just relaxing and having a good time, which, is fine. The story doesn't need to be anything important. But my hope was to at least, go through the story, mark this game as complete, and then move on and, play this game occasionally if I like go on another dive and, feel like relaxing for a little bit, just do another dive, which is fine. But here's the problem, and here's what I found out from the review that I listened to. Once chapter 4 is complete, then you just need to do the 5th and final chapter, right? Well, here's the thing. The requirement to unlock chapter 5 is absolutely ridiculous. It's no longer having to find fish. It is a new requirement, and let me tell you about that. If you remember last time, I talked about the mystery board, how there's 99 mysteries to discovered. And some of these mysteries are just like treasures that you find like in the bottom of the sea, or there's like these mysterious fish that appear like after certain conditions are met. And these UMLs, they call it, the unidentified marine life forms. There's a couple of those that you need to scan. Each one of those is one of the 99 mysteries. And there's other riddles too you need to solve. There's like this huge disc on the sea floor, and like it tells you a riddle like, bring with you a fish that has a spear. You gotta find a marlin and bring it to the disc or whatever. So, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. You can actually get whatever fish to follow you. At first, you can only get smaller fish to follow, but as you rank up, you can get bigger and bigger ones to follow you. So that's another thing. One of the riddles, you had to like get a certain type of fish to follow me, which I wasn't able to because I needed to be a higher rank. So that's another thing that I have to grind for. So there's 99 mysteries. I've played this game for like, I don't know, it's under 10 hours, I would say. And right now I have 23 out of the 99 things unlocked on the mystery board. So I'm still missing quite a lot. I'm way behind. And in order to unlock Chapter 5, you need to find all 99 things on the mystery board, which is absolutely crazy. That's like insane. It's like playing Banjo-Kazooie and getting to like Grunty's lair, and Grunty telling you, oh, you wanna, come inside Grunty's lair, then you gotta go back and find every single jiggy and every single note before you can come in here. Actually, that's a bad example, because that game is actually fun and I would not mind doing that. Bad example. That's like Donkey Kong 64 and getting to the final boss and them telling you, oh, you know what? You gotta go back and find every single golden banana and every single, colored banana for every single character before you can fight the final boss. Oh, and by the way, because the ocean maps are randomized, you might not find the thing you're looking for. You could explore the entire thing. And each map only has a limited number of like these mystery things. So you have to do multiple dives to find each one of these things. And by the way, you could actually come across ones that you found before. So it is an absolute random mess being able to like find all these 99. The reviewer that I was listening to has said that he was almost done with his mystery board. Or not almost done, but he was like, there was a certain one that he was looking for. I think one of the UMLs that he was looking for, like one of these super rare mysterious fish. Which you only get one of those per dive. Like only a certain one appears per dive. I don't know how many there are, but you only get one per dive. So you got to do multiple dives to find each of the unidentified marine life forms. And this guy said that he went on 3 separate dives and got the same UML all 3 times in a row. Imagine trying to find a specific one and only getting the ones you found before. And yeah, that's just highly frustrating. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to go ahead and as soon as I complete Chapter 4, I'm going to mark this game as complete. Because, unlocking and completing Chapter 5, that's like a completionist level task right there. That's a task that could easily take you an upwards of 100 hours. Calculating, from what I've heard from people and like from my personal experience, that's like easily a 100-hour plus task right there, which is absolutely crazy why they did it this way. I don't understand it. The other thing that was said, the other criticism, is that going on dives became a little bit samey, which I kind of started to agree after doing like a couple more dives. A lot of the maps kind of look the same, and once you find like certain specific specialized areas, like the ruins and like the sunken ships and whatnot, those you can find those like repeatedly. Those come up quite often. The last dive I did no, let me mention the last time I mentioned that there's like special events that they are going to do. And like the first festival thing, it's called the Dive Festival, actually started today, which I went to that and actually ended up having a lot of fun because I ended up finding so many new species that I hadn't before. It got to the point where I was finding like a lot of the same, and like finding new ones became rare. But I went on this specialized event and actually ended up finding a bunch of new ones. And also I found a new area on the ocean floor. There's like the deep ocean. I was like started diving, down lower and lower, and I was like, it's actually really impressive, like how deep this certain trench went, and there's like a whole ton of like deep sea creatures down there. That was pretty cool. So I ended up, making a bunch of new fish discoveries and stuff. So that was fun. And I feel like in order to complete the board and complete, finding every fish and all the treasures, it might be best to like wait for these type of events. Or like I said last time, also going online and having people help you out, and other people, tag also treasures, and then, so going to the tags and just having other players help you, because that's the only way I see feasible of like completing this in a timely manner without it taking like hundreds of hours. So yeah, if like what I said last time is still valid, if that's what you're looking for. If you're just wanting to buy this game to play it just to relax and to have a good time and to learn about, different sea life, what I said last time is still valid. It's still a good game for that. But if you're buying this game with the hopes of it, like, with the completionist mindset, where you just want to finish the story and, mark this game as done, this is not the game for you. Avoid this game. That is absolutely wild. The other things I hadn't talked about is customization options, where you can actually customize your character. You have the same outfit, but you can customize different colors, and they have like tons of different choices and patterns that you can play around with. There's also a bunch of stickers to buy and apply to your character. And also you get emotes, where like your diver will do different, like he'll do a clap, or he'll do like spins, or he'll do like just a whole bunch of different emotes. Now, each of these emotes you have to purchase to be able to use them. And some of the earlier ones are like, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. I have put, like I mentioned earlier, just under 10 hours into this game. And right now I have 30,000 gold. I've purchased a couple of the cheaper things, but still 30,000, from the amount of stuff that's on here, it's not a lot, really. Like some of these emotes by themselves cost 30,000. And if I keep scrolling down, there's some that cost 50,000. And I see one at the bottom here, 120,000. That's insane. How many hours do you have to play to get to 120,000? Same thing with the stickers. I'm looking through the stickers right now, and like some of these are 8,000, some are 30,000. Scrolling down, there's 20,000 ones. And then the color patterns, to get even the basic ones, there's like 30,000, 50,000. Scrolling to the bottom, there's like a bunch more unlocked. I have to like unlock some achievements to see how pricey they are, but that's absolutely ridiculous, like how much stuff there is to unlock and how little money you're getting. There's like, it seems to be some disconnect there. You don't make way enough to like, if you have the mentality to like unlock everything, that's another thing that would just take probably hundreds more hours than to unlock than the mystery board itself. So yeah, now I'm looking through like all of the fish that I've discovered. And right now I have found 289 fish out of 578. So I'm about halfway done discovering all the different fish. So I'm about halfway done seeing all different fish there is to see. I don't know how many areas I have yet to discover in the ocean maps, but I can't imagine there'd be that many more. So yeah, I feel like this, unless they start adding new things or like they start patching it to make things appear more often, I don't see myself really focusing on unlocking anything else or like completing anything else. Like I said, I'm just probably gonna try to unlock chapter 4 and finish that and then mark this game as done, because anything beyond that is just absolute insanity. So yeah, like I still enjoy going on dives for what it's worth. I still have fun. Like I said, during the event, I discovered a whole bunch of, new sea creatures that I hadn't before, and I discovered a new area I hadn't seen before, and all that is still a lot of fun. So I think from now on, I'm just gonna play it casually. I'm not gonna worry too much about anything else. Once I unlock more story chapters, I'll do those. And yeah, eventually I'll be done with this game, and I'll probably hop in when I just feel like relaxing and exploring a little bit more. But yeah, beyond that, I'm not gonna worry about anything else because everything else is just too ridiculous. And yeah, this has been my updated thoughts on Endless Ocean Luminous. I hope I've enlightened you. If you are still looking to get this game, I hope I didn't scare you away. Just, set your expectations, I guess. And with that, I return it right back to you, Mr. Ferret. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Kalas, for talking more about Endless Ocean Luminous. He was very he was very positive with the last review, and he came to me I think it was on a Twitch stream or something like that, and was like, "Hey, I need to talk about this again." And I'm like, "Sure." The door's always open for Kalas to come in and talk about a game that I didn't get or whatever, update us about a game that he's been playing that I didn't really talk about. So anytime Kalas wants to come on, I love to have him on. He's always so cute, I don't know. But thank you, If you want to follow Kalas, twitch.tv/justKalas, Twitter, Instagram, etc. It's all justKalas. And I'm sure he'll be back in the future. Okay, now let's head over to the final part of the show, which is what's coming soon. Okay, The Joker is coming to Multiverses, which is launching on May 28th. We're getting there. We're almost there to the relaunch of Multiverses. They've shown off a couple of characters coming to the game, like Marvin the Martian, and stuff like that. I forget who else at this point. But they've officially revealed that the Joker is coming to Multiverses, and he will be the new playable character when the game comes out. And he's being voiced by Mark Hamill, who famously was he's pretty much the Joker for most people's version of the Joker. The animated series Joker, he was the Joker in the Arkham series. He's done the Joker in multiple different animated movies in different places. And Mark Hamill did say that, once Sean Connery passed away, he was going to retire his Joker voice, but I'm pretty sure Sean Connery did the voice for Batman in the Multiverses, so I think that's why he reprised his role as the Joker, is because Sean Connery's already in the game, so he can go ahead and give his performance as well, which is nice. Mark Hamill's always done. He's if you're reading a comic book, if you're reading a book, if you're watching a movie. I guess not if you're watching the movie, but he's usually the Joker voice that I hear in my head when I'm, reading something about the Joker, or I have like a comic book with the Joker in it, right? And if you hear any other Joker, it's not going to sound right, like the John DiMaggio Joker in the animated movie. I forget what it's called right now. He did a good job, but it's always a little bit odd when it's not Mark Hamill, or the Joker from the Lego movies, which is Galifianakis. I forget his first name right now. It's fine, he's good, but it just doesn't feel like the Joker, right? Until you get Mark Hamill in there. Obviously, the live versions of the Joker are good too, but anything animated or video game related, I always want to hear, Mark Hamill's Joker, right? But he's not always going to be up for the role, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so Multiverses, that's coming back on May 28th. I will be playing it and checking it out, seeing how different it is. It was taken offline, about a year ago at this point, about a year ago. And at the time, I wasn't really playing it myself, but there's a lot of people who really were enjoying it, and I'm glad that they're bringing it back. And we'll see how it is with a fresh coat of paint or whatever they have for it. All right, next up is Nintendo is releasing a Nintendo World Championship NES Edition game. Essentially what this is, it's kind of like the NES Remix games, except it's all based around speed running, essentially. So you kind of set up a profile, I guess, about you and what your favorite NES game is, and blah 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 blah. And then you take on these challenges where you try and complete things as fast as you can, sections of games as fast as you can. So games like Super Mario Bros. 1 through 3, and also the Lost Levels, Excite Bike, Ice Climber, The Legend of Zelda 1 and 2, Donkey Kong, Metroid, Balloon Fight, Kid Icarus, and Kirby's Adventure will all be available to. I'm sorry, the speedrun, I guess, to have like 150. There's 150 challenges inside of this game between the 13 NES titles. So I think most of them are speedrunning challenges. You can go up against your friends. You can share your scores on leaderboards and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty much see how quickly you can blaze through the first level of Mario Bros. Or how fast you can gobble up enemies in Kirby's Adventure or kill enemies in The Legend of Zelda. You can take on the world online. You can jump in the championship mode and see how your best times match up against those other players with varying skill levels. And you can challenge your friends on the couch. You can gather up to 8 players and play local multiplayer party mode to take on challenges individually or in themed packs. It's unfortunate that there's not actual online here, but yeah. And if you don't recall, the Nintendo World Championship was a real thing where people sped through games as fast as they could. They could win awards for them and stuff like that. So this is a nice little throwback to that day and age. They did it. They're not bringing back, the World Championships, I guess, but this is pretty cool. I already pre-ordered this myself. There's a physical version and a digital version. The digital version is going to be $30. The physical version, I believe, is $50. I believe. It comes with a couple things. It comes with a gold NES replica cartridge. It comes with like postcards with each game's cover on it. It comes in a nice box. And I believe there's also a 5-pin enamel pin set as well inside there as well. So pretty cool. Not too bad. I did pre-order the physical version. I was talking to Kalas once again, and I was saying how this seems like one of those games that once it sells out, the physical version sells out, they're not going to restock it. And it seems like it's going to be one of those games that physically will go up in price as it gets older. So it's kind of like an investment, kind of like an investment. But I don't know. Don't take advice from me. Not legal. Money advice from me. All right. Spin Rhythm XD is coming to the PlayStation and PlayStation VR. It's coming on the 9th of July to the store. This is a pretty interesting take on the rhythm genre where you have like a wheel of 2 different colors. You have red and blue, and you spin the wheel to do different things. You also press and tap on the buttons as well on the wheel and move the wheel sometimes along with the notes in order to keep your combo up. The regular PS5 version of the game, you'll be able to use the controller with the gyro controls, button layouts, or you'll even be able to use the touchpad to tap on the notes as well, which is pretty cool. The PSVR 2 version of the game, of course, you'll be using your controllers to actually physically tap on the buttons and move the wheel itself. If you want to check out the trailer for that, it kind of explains it a little bit better visually. It's on Spin Rhythm XD's YouTube channel. The Tears of the Kingdom soundtrack is coming physically to stores in Japan. And it's coming sometime in July 31st. So essentially, there's 2 different versions of the physical soundtrack. The first version is 344 tracks across 9 discs for about 13,200 yen, which is about $85. If you want to get the deluxe edition of this, which is going to be about $127 or 19,800 yen, it'll contain the full soundtrack of 9 discs plus a Master Sword USB. The USB can be displayed via the stand included, and it comes with 15 high-resolution sound sources to enjoy. There's no word for a release in America or Europe at this point, but you can only assume that they'll eventually bring it over. Who knows? We'll see. I guess they're waiting to see how well this is going to sell. Yeah, what is that? That's like $50 extra just for a USB stick, which, I mean, it's a cool USB stick and it comes with some fun things, but that's that's a lot of money for just a USB stick to be added into the bundle. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you might have to buy it on a Japanese site, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know if they'll ship it to the U.S. or not. I don't know. But if you want to try it out, there you go. It will be available to pre-order soon, and it's coming out on July 31st. If you want to check that out. A game called Don't Kill Them All is coming to multiple platforms, but right now it's trying to be backed on Kickstarter. The Kickstarter page is now live for it. This is coming from Fika Productions, who was behind Ship of Fools, which I found pretty enjoyable back when we played it. Don't Kill Them All is a turn-based strategy and management title where you help a clan of orcs better themselves and gain more perspective on life beyond killing. So essentially, there's a bunch of different orcs that you have under your banner, and they all have like different traits and stuff like that, and you can use them in battle. There's like a magician, a chef, a farmer. There's a bunch of them that they showed off. The enemy designs and character designs are pretty fun. Once again, there's no release date for it yet, but it does seem to be doing pretty well on Kickstarter right now. And they did claim that it will be coming to multiple platforms when it does release. Right now, it has 43,000 out of the 73,000 they want, so they're getting pretty close there. 24 more days to go. Some of the tiers, there's of course the lower tiers like the dollar tier, but there's also a $30 tier which will get you the game digitally. There is a $50 tier which will get you the game access to the closed beta. Access to the closed beta. And then there's higher tiers as well. You can get like a Ship of Fools bundle, a physical edition bundle as well for $150, which is a little bit pricey in my opinion. There's even more. You get there's like a boar plushie for $200. For $300, there's statues and stuff like that, pictures that you can get, and signed artists and signed copies, and there's a lot. There's a lot here. There's a 5,000 backers, the highest one. You can actually design a character for you to be in the game, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, if you want to check that out, the Kickstarter is available now for Don't Kill Them All. A game called Eternal Threads is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and PC on May 23rd. This looks like it's going to be like a Telltale type game where you it's a narrative-driven experience where you just try and solve a problem. But essentially, Eternal Threads is about it is a first-person adventure game where you manipulate time and the choices of characters in order to prevent their death. 6 people will die in a house fire in North England, but it's your job to go back in time and ensure that the disaster cannot occur. You'll go back a week before the fire and go over the events of how it unfolds in the 7-day period. And then if you did good enough, no one will die in the fire. Or if you did bad enough, everyone will still die. I think that this was announced a while ago, but it's now getting a re-announcement. And it's nice to see that it's coming out soon rather than later. So if you want to check that out, like I said, that's coming the 23rd of May to all different platforms. Akimbot is a new game coming from Evil Raptor? Is that the name of the studio? Nice name. Love that name. This is coming to PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox. It's pretty much a Ratchet and Clank inspired game. The character designs are even kind of closely related. Like the main robot has ears, big ears, and the helper robot is following you around. Does kind of like the same things as Clank would do. Visually, it looks great, and it does remind me of like that kind of like a 2016 reboot of Ratchet and Clank. And there's some things in there that you might recognize from the Rift Apart as well, like wall running and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, for a Ratchet and Clank-like game, it looks really good. I don't mind that it's so closely related to Ratchet and Clank, just because the Ratchet and Clank formula is a good one, and it doesn't get used by Sony that often. I mean, we had one Ratchet and Clank game in the PS4 era. We have had one Ratchet and Clank game in the PS5 era. Of course, the PS3 era had like 50 games, but that's besides the point. Ratchet and Clank, we need more Ratchet and Clank, folks. And with Insomniac on the Spider-Man series, I don't think we'll be getting another Ratchet and Clank game for another couple of years now. Yeah, I mean, and, just like Ratchet and Clank, you'll be upgrading your weapons as you shoot them. You will also be able to commandeer vehicles in this game, which obviously you do in Ratchet and Clank here and there, but not like a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities here, but I will say it looks pretty good. This is coming sometime in 2024, so I'll keep an ear and eye out open for this. You can wishlist it now on Steam if you so desire. Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered is getting a physical release. Also, the Lara Croft Collection is also getting a physical release as well, both of them coming from Limited Run Games. So the Lara Croft top-down co-op shooter kind of things, kind of like the Gauntlet games, will be getting a physical version. These games are getting older, and they're not, of course, they're not like really part of the canon anymore, but they're still getting a lot of love, which is nice. But this will be a 2-pack bundle with both of the games included. You'll be able to pre-order you'll be able to get them actually available right now. You'll be able to pre-order them physically for the Nintendo Switch. If you want to get the 1 through 3 remaster, that collection will be available. Well, hold on, where is that at? Oh, they just confirmed that there will be a Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered collection coming physically. More information on May 21st. Okay, so that hasn't been revealed yet, but they have revealed the full collection for the Lara Croft collection, which is what I was already talking about. So there is a collector's edition for the Lara Croft collection, which includes the 2 games, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, and Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. So there's a steelbook that comes with it, along with 3 art prints, an acrylic standee, and the soundtrack as well, all inside of an iconic trapezoid box. So if you want to check that out, those are available right now to check out. Right now, it seems like it's only available on Switch to get this version of the game. So check it out if you want to. And then I will come back probably next week and talk about the 1 through 3 Remastered Collection getting a physical release. Also, Wargroove 1 and 2 are getting a physical release as well for the Switch. There will only be 4,000 copies available, and this is coming from Super Rare Games, which I do like more than Limited Run personally, but they're both fine, you know. The Super Rare Games, they usually come with like little cards that you can get and then a couple of stickers. And this one is no different, apparently. There's going to be only 4,000 copies on the Switch. It's a combination of Wargroove 1 and 2, which is kind of like a Advanced Wars kind of game, turn-based strategy kind of like that. This will be available to purchase on the 16th of May for about $40. And like I said before, there's only 4,000 available, so this is going to be one of those ones that maybe will sell out fast. I don't know. It's also been confirmed that the games will be all on one cartridge, which is nice. So if you want to check that out, that'll be available to pre-order on the 16th. Dead Island 2. It's not over yet, apparently, even though they released their latest DLC and the only one that was really a part of the season pass, which was Sola. They confirmed in a statement on Twitter that they value and appreciate your comments and wishes for the future. In the following months, we'll share exciting and long-awaited new game updates, so stay tuned for Dead Island 2 content to come. All the best, and thank you for slaying. So, yeah, it seems like they're going to be working on more stuff to come to the game, maybe more DLC, or maybe just some free content drops. Who knows? Maybe some new weapons. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it's nice that the game is going to continue being supported into and through 2024, and we'll see what else they have in store for it. I personally really enjoyed the game. It was number 10 on the top 10 games list from last year. I really enjoyed it. It was a long road for it to come out, but I was really happy with the final product, and I think that you will like it too. I believe it's on Xbox Game Pass right now, so if you want to check that out for no extra cost, you can check it out on Xbox Game Pass. And finally for today, Among Us is teasing its new roadmap for 2024. They just released their fungal map, but they also have more plans for the future of 2024. Not much, to be honest, but it's something at least. Coming soon, there are going to be some new roles you'll be able to use in the game. There will also be better lobby filtering. They're going to make the lobby settings more pretty. There will be new cosmetics and new collaborations in the near future. So really, there's not much to really talk about here other than it's nice that they're still working on the game or still updating the game still supporting the game all these years later. Because the game originally came out in like 2019. It only gained traction. No, the game originally came out in 2016, right? I want to say 2016 or 7. Hold on, let me look it up before I start gabbing on. Okay, so it originally came out in 2018. It didn't start to gain traction until about the late 2019, early 2020 because of the pandemic. And the only reason that it won an award at the Game Awards in like 2022 is because they released a mobile version, which is funny, you know. Yeah, I am glad that they're still working on the game at least. I know it probably still has a pretty nice player base to it, really. They've released a couple of, you know, expansions and stuff like that. They've been featured in other games. Even What the Golf had a Among Us themed course set for it, you know. So pretty cool indeed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're excited about that, that'll be coming soon, I guess. Some new stuff coming soon. All right, let's move on to the closing here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Let's go ahead and do the final part, which is guess that song. Essentially, I play a snippet of a song, and if you know the game that it came from and the song's name, I will give you a super reaction in the Discord. If you guess it in the Discord, if you're in the YouTube comments, I'll give you a heart and a congratulations. Let you know that you did well. Let's hear what this week's song is right now. Alright, if you know what that song's name is and the game that came from, let me know in the comments below or in the Discord in the Ferret64 section. And thank you so much once again to Kalas for giving us an update on his time with Endless Ocean Luminous. Very much appreciate that. Once again, if you want to check out Kalas, twitch.tv/justKalas. If you want to check out anything else that I do, me, myself, and I, Yemmy the Ferret, it's at twitch.tv/Yemmy the Ferret. We are gearing up for our summer contest. It will be lasting between June through August. The information is in the Discord right now. The summer backlog bonanza. It's going to be epic, folks. We're going to be doing marble races, and there's going to be a contest attached to it. And right now, there's only 3 people who seem interested in doing it. So there's a first, second, and third place. So they're guaranteed spots in the winnings if no one else joins. But if you want to, just check it out and let me know if you're interested in joining. It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. Last year we did the PlayStation Plus version of it, where I just played games from the PlayStation Plus catalog. But this year I wanted to go all out. Every single game on my backlog is up for grabs, except for games that are longer than about 30 hours. I wanted to make sure that I could still get through a fair amount to keep the contest interesting, I guess you could say. If you want to check that out, that's all in the Discord. Link down in the description below. If you do join the Discord for whatever reason, make sure you let us know that you're not a bot by saying something. We've been having a bot problem. So if you don't say something, we usually kick. So there you go. I also run a podcast called Film Freaks with a Z at the end. The most recent episode is about The Revenant, which is available right now. The next episode is about Planet of the Apes from 1967, 68. So that'll be coming out next week, next Friday. Anything else is all at Yemmy the Ferret, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Yemmy the Ferret VODs on YouTube for stream uploads. Thank you so much for listening and sticking around. I'm Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm out of here. I'll talk at you next week. So long.
The Ferret64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.